What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Friday, October 20th, 2023, and I have another emergency update to share with you guys. Right now it is 12:31 p.m. Eastern Time here in the United States. I wanted to just update you with some of the latest information from the Middle East and also from Eastern Europe and the Korean Peninsula. So before I do that, I just want to share some flight paths with you guys. So what you're looking at here is a U.S. nuclear war command and control plane, which is airborne right now over Oklahoma City. And we also have a U.S. intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance plane over the Gulf of Mexico. And it took off from Greenville, Texas, and it went all the way down to the Yucatan Peninsula and Cuba, and now it's on its way back. Very, very interesting. Maybe there's some Russian or Chinese military activity in this area, particularly in Cuba, but that's something you don't see every day. And then at the same time, we have this nuclear war command and control plane that's just been doing loops south of Oklahoma City for the last 2 or 3 hours or so. This is just south of Norman, Oklahoma, okay, near Slaughterville. It's flying over Slaughterville, just doing these loops here, okay? So if you live in this area, let me know if you can see this thing and try to get some video footage or pictures of it. I'd love to see that. Um, but this is very, very unusual for so early in the day to have one of these just doing loops like this. Very, very unusual. Most likely it's deploying its trailing wire antenna so it can communicate with our nuclear forces. And these planes are responsible for communicating with our nuclear armed submarines in the event of a nuclear war. Here we have a B 1 bomber that was airborne yesterday just west of Abilene, Texas. This is where Dyess Air Force Base is, and that's a bomber base. And want to just recap some of the breaking news from yesterday before I get into the latest breaking news from today. So if you missed my live stream, there was an address to the nation by Biden, and it was pretty short. It was probably like, I don't know, 15 minutes or so. Nothing really too concrete in it. He basically just said that the U.S. will support Israel, that the U.S. will support Ukraine, that the U.S. will defend every inch of NATO territory, that Putin and Hamas and all the forces supporting Hamas are basically all the same. They're all basically evil people, and they can't be allowed to win against Israel and Ukraine. So it's very interesting, though, that he mentioned both Israel and Ukraine together. And it's almost like we're building up for this massive showdown or World War III against the BRICS nations. So it's almost like he's kind of trying to create this axis of evil by comparing Putin to Hamas and Iran and all that. It's like he's forming this axis of evil that we have to fight against. And in case you missed my stream, there were some photos that were released on social media yesterday showing apparently Iranian long range ballistic missiles being moved around in Tehran. Here's a picture of one of them mounted on a truck with camouflage netting draped over it. And I did see some additional video footage late last night, and there were probably about a dozen of these or more moved around Tehran in that video. Okay, so Iran is readying their long range ballistic missiles. That's very concerning. They could use them to strike Israel. Okay, and we do know that Israel has their own ballistic missiles. They have the Jericho missile, and they also have their own nuclear weapons that they can deploy from both fighter jets and from missiles. So if Iran were to strike Israel with ballistic missiles, it's not like Israel can't retaliate, and their retaliation would actually be more severe than Iran's first strike. And if that were to happen, if let's say Iran launches missiles at Israel and Israel launches missiles back with nuclear warheads, then we could definitely see Russia get involved, and that would fulfill the Ezekiel 38 and 39 prophecy where God puts hooks in the jaws of the leader of Russia and brings him down into the Middle East to fight against Israel, so this way he could be destroyed by God himself. And so that would put the hooks in the jaw of Putin if the U.S. or Israel or both attack Iran and try to wipe out their military in a decapitation strike, then Russia would definitely get involved. Okay. So we'll have to wait and see what happens, guys. But it looks like we're just hours away from this war kicking off in the Middle East. This is going to be the biggest land war in the Middle East in probably decades. Okay, this will be probably the biggest war in Israel's history, bigger than the Yom Kippur War, bigger than the Six-Day War. Okay, they've mobilized 400,000 Israelis to go into the Gaza Strip, and they're also preparing in the northern part of Israel for an invasion from the north, from Lebanon. Okay, I have a friend who lives in Israel, and he's telling me that people are on edge right now, that Israelis are very concerned about attacks from all sides. Okay, and the mood in Israel right now is very similar to the mood in Ukraine when Russia initially invaded Ukraine. So, yesterday, in addition to these ballistic missiles being spotted in Tehran, we had a rocket attack on a U.S. military base in Iraq. This was the Victory Base Complex and the Baghdad International Airport in central Iraq. Apparently, one rocket was shot down by the CRAM system that was protecting the base, while another rocket impacted a facility used by U.S. military personnel. Thankfully, the damage to the base was only minimal and no injuries occurred. A Pentagon spokesman confirmed that in the northern Red Sea, the USS Carney destroyer shot down 3 cruise missiles and several drones launched by Houthi forces in Yemen. The missiles were fired from Yemen yesterday, and they were the Quds 3 cruise missiles, and they were apparently aimed towards southern Israel. Okay, and that USS Carney warship literally just arrived like hours before it had to be deployed to intercept these missiles. So good timing there. I mean, if they delayed just another day and they didn't deploy, then those missiles could have hit their targets in Israel or wherever they were aimed at. Maybe they were aimed at U.S. carriers. I mean, who knows? Okay, and speaking of U.S. carriers, we have that second aircraft carrier moving into the Eastern Mediterranean. It should be arriving basically any day now, any hour. All right. It departed from Virginia 6 days ago. Okay. And based on my calculations, it has to travel 6,000 miles to get from Virginia to the Eastern Mediterranean. And the average cruising speed of an aircraft carrier is about 30 miles an hour. So if you do the math, that's about 7 days of travel time, assuming calm seas and that, it's going full speed the whole time. So it should arrive this weekend into the Eastern Mediterranean. And also the 26th Marine Expeditionary Unit is supposed to be arriving probably any hour now in the Eastern Mediterranean. And the 26th Marine Expeditionary Unit has 2,500 Marines and multiple amphibious landing ships. Okay, so 2 aircraft carriers and their strike groups, also a Marine Expeditionary Unit with 2,500 Marines. 100% confirmed that those 3 are going to the Eastern Mediterranean. And then we have rumors of an empty aircraft carrier going to the Eastern Mediterranean, the USS George Washington, which would basically just function as a spare floating airbase for the Israelis and Western forces, and also potentially a British aircraft carrier. And this update is being sponsored by Patriot Supply. Guys, I have a special deal for you that Patriot Supply hooked me up with, and it's a 25% discount on their 3-month emergency food supply and their 2-week emergency food supply. So to get the deal, you have to use the link in the description below this video, which is preparewith NYPrepper.com, and you'll get 25% off the Patriot Supply 3-month emergency food supply and 2-week emergency food supply. Now, these food supplies are freeze dried, so they have a 25-year shelf life if stored in the proper conditions. They come in rugged, water-resistant buckets. The 3-month emergency food supply comes in 6 water-resistant buckets, so they don't take up a lot of room. And you have 3 months worth of food, which should cover you for almost any scenario. There's a variety of different food in this 3-month supply and also in the 2-week supply. As you can see here, rice pudding, mac and cheese, creamy stroganoff, cheesy broccoli soup, chili mac, spaghetti. I mean, just a ton of different food here. So you're going to get a good variety, and it's also healthy, and there's no MSG. So get prepared, guys. We're living in unprecedented times. World War III could happen at any moment. And the 2-week emergency food supply is also great for people that like to go camping. You can get one of these buckets and throw it in your vehicle. So use the link preparewithnyprepper.com to get 25% off of the 2-week and the 3-month emergency food supply from Patriot Supply, 25-year shelf life. They also have a general store. If you click on their logo here, it'll take you to their general store, which has all kinds of prepping and survival items. So check them out, guys. I'll leave a link in the description below this video. So a lot of assets being moved into the Eastern Mediterranean, guys. This could pop off any hour now, any hour. And I think it's going to pop off this weekend. We have some information coming from viewers of this channel. I got an email from one viewer saying that they know someone who is on a destroyer in the Mediterranean Sea with the carrier strike group Gerald Ford. And apparently, this person on the destroyer was told that all communications will be going dark. And they made their last phone call last night. Okay, so this person made their last phone call to family members last night on some destroyer as part of the carrier strike group Gerald Ford. And after that phone call, no more phone calls or emails going forward. So they're doing a full silence of communications. They're going completely dark. Okay. And apparently he said that it's going to start any hour now. Okay. So wanted to just share that with you. Also, another viewer told me that they have some family members that are with some brigade combat teams in the U.S. Army, and apparently 2 brigade combat teams are going to Syria right now. Okay, I'm trying to get more details on that. Okay, but one person on a destroyer saying that comms are already dark, and personnel on these warships are not going to be allowed to do any communications, which means that things are about to happen. Okay, so they don't want any enemy forces being able to use those signals like phone calls and stuff like that. They can use those signals to figure out locations of these ships and eavesdrop. The U.S. conducted a nuclear test in Nevada after Russia moved to revoke the nuclear test ban treaty. So this came just hours after Russian lawmakers said they plan to revoke the ratification of the nuclear test ban treaty. And I reported on that 2 days ago. So basically, the lower house of the Russian parliament unanimously approved, I think it was like 500 to 0 votes, approved to revoke the ratification of the nuclear test ban treaty. And so I guess the U.S. conducted a nuclear test literally hours after that. So this is pretty concerning. Israeli authorities have decided to evacuate residents of the Kiryat Shimona settlement in northern Israel. The Israeli Air Force is now reportedly in the sky over Beirut, Lebanon. This is being reported by Lebanese sources, so I haven't been able to cross-verify that with any Israeli or Western sources, but Lebanese sources are saying that there are Israeli fighter jets flying over Beirut today. Ukraine and the Netherlands have asked their citizens to leave Lebanon immediately. And we have a member of the Politburo of the Houthi rebels in Yemen saying that their forces are on high alert and they're ready to move at a moment's notice. The statement was made by Abdul Wahab al Mahbashi, and he said, "We keep our hand on the trigger and wait for the order to move." Okay, so the Houthis in Yemen, which are basically a terrorist group, uh, they are ready to deploy against Israel. Okay, we have some concerning information coming out that more pro Iranian militias are moving from Iraq into Syria now, and apparently they're being moved close to the border with Israel. And last night on my live stream, I showed photos of these unmarked buses in Iraq that were being used to shuttle these PMU militants. These are basically the pro Iranian militants, and some of them are volunteers that volunteered to fight against Israel, basically from Iran. Okay, apparently 3 million Iranians have volunteered, okay, to fight against Israel. Israel's defense minister on Friday said that one objective in the military campaign in the Gaza Strip is to end Israel's responsibility over the Palestinian coastal enclave. Okay, so basically, he wants to reorganize the security infrastructure over the Gaza Strip to the point where Israel will not have responsibility uh, over that area anymore. What that means, I have no idea. You know, that's a pretty strong statement there, though. The Israeli Ministry of Defense said that today they received 1,000 tons of weapons to enhance the capabilities of the Israeli army, and that's probably from all those C-17s that I was showing you guys, all the flight paths of the C-17s going to and from Israel the last week, probably hundreds of them. The Egyptian army conducted surprise maneuvers with live ammunition today. There is some video footage, but I can't share it with you guys on this platform, unfortunately. But they were just doing like live fire exercises with tanks, with close air support, basically combined arms maneuvers. Uh, and in Egypt, the Rafah border crossing will not be open today to bring humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip. This is being reported by CNN. So that's pretty interesting because we know that it's been open the past few days and then today they're closing it. So I don't know if that's because they're going to start military operations soon. So they closed the crossing. We'll have to wait and see. Tomorrow is Saturday, which is a holy day for Jews. So I don't think they would start their operation on a Saturday. It would be like the U.S. Starting a war on a Sunday morning. I mean, it's possible. It could happen. But, you know, it may not because of the religious aspects, but it could. We'll see. Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant said this is a campaign of 3 stages. We are in the first stage in which a military operation is taking place with fire, and later in a maneuver whose purpose is to destroy activists and damage infrastructure in order to neutralize and destroy Hamas. The second stage will be an intermediate stage of continuing the fighting at a lower intensity and eliminating pockets of resistance. The third step will be the creation of a new security regime in the Gaza Strip. the removal of Israel's responsibility in the Gaza Strip and the creation of a new security reality for the citizens of Israel and the residents of the surrounding area. Okay, very interesting. Like I said, I don't know what that means, but very interesting. Belgium and Oman have asked their citizens to leave Lebanon immediately. So that's very concerning. Also, the Russian Foreign Ministry is telling their citizens to avoid going to Israel, Lebanon, Jordan, and all territories of the Palestinian Authority. We have a representative for the Ayatollah Khomeini in Iran. His name is Mohammad Hosseini Hamadani, saying that after eliminating and destroying Israel, a new Middle East will soon be formed. Okay, so they want to totally destroy Israel, guys. Okay. An IDF spokesman said in a statement that the Air Force is operating at a pace of attacks that has not been seen for decades, preparing the area for the next stages of combat. Okay, so the Israeli Air Force is operating at a pace of attacks that have not been seen for decades, guys, decades. Okay, they're preparing the area for the next stage of combat. We have the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres arriving at the Rafah border crossing in Egypt today. And the United States is now dropping visas for Israelis coming to the US as long as they're only here for a max of 90 days. They don't need a visa. So obviously, the US is planning for an influx of refugees from Israel. The Israeli army announced that it carried out airstrikes against a number of Hezbollah sites in southern Lebanon in response to some earlier missile and rocket attacks. And we have intense fighting going on between the Israeli army and Hezbollah at the Israeli-Lebanese border right now. And Hezbollah forces have allegedly attacked more Israeli army outposts in Rasat-e-Alam and several other bases in the Kafr Shuba hills. So that's very concerning. And we have violent clashes going on between Palestinians and the Israeli army in Jerusalem. This happened overnight last night. Lots of clashes in various parts of Jerusalem, riots. I wish I could show you the footage, but I can't. So I want to just continue with some of the flight paths here. So here we have Russian planes going over the Eastern Mediterranean. Looks like one of them is a VIP plane. It took off from Saudi Arabia. And then there's another one flying over exactly where we have our aircraft carrier strike group. And I don't know if this is just a coincidence or if it's flying over just to keep an eye on the strike group and see what that strike group is up to. Okay. And here we have a British fighter jet. This is a Eurofighter Typhoon operating off the coast of Cyprus near Lebanon. And it was getting aerially refueled by a KC-2 Voyager. Okay, so we do have a lot of British fighter jet activity in the Eastern Mediterranean, okay, off the coast of Cyprus. And like 2 or 3 days ago, there was one of these typhoons that just flew straight towards Lebanon. So for all we know, these fighter jets could be participating in airstrikes right now in Gaza and Lebanon, and we just don't know, guys. I mean, we don't know what the real situation is. Okay, regardless of what we're told, we just don't know. Last night we had tremendous intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance activity over Eastern Europe in the Baltics and in Poland. We had another combat Sentinel plane patrolling off the coast of Kaliningrad, and the U.S. only has 2 of these combat Sentinel planes, and these planes are used for providing intelligence directly to the president and the Joint Chiefs of Staff. So this is the 6th time in the last 2 weeks that one of these combat Sentinel planes was flying in this exact same area here off the coast of Kaliningrad. Okay, so something is brewing over here, guys. Something is brewing for them to be sending a combat sentinel plane almost every day this week. Okay, literally like the last 5 days, almost every day. Okay, so this is concerning, guys. Okay, they're not going to send one of these up in the air for no reason if they only have two of them, and if these planes report directly to the president and the Joint Chiefs. All right. We also had RC-135 Rivet Joint patrolling the northeastern part of Poland along Kaliningrad, and then there was also a Swedish reconnaissance plane also patrolling northeastern Poland. I mean, look at this, guys. This is insane. So it's very possible that Russia could attack the Baltic soon. I saw footage the other day of a bunch of Russian military equipment being moved in the western part of Russia. Unfortunately, I cannot share that footage on YouTube, but it's possible that Russia's building up their forces for an attack on the Baltics. And here we have a nuke sniffer plane that was moved from Qatar to the UK. That's very interesting. And we had several VIP planes active in the Middle East. These are American VIP planes. We had one go to Saudi Arabia, the capital of Saudi Arabia, Riyadh. And then we had another one go to Bahrain. And then we had another one this morning go from Sigonella to Crete. Okay, so lots of U.S. Air Force and U.S. Navy VIP planes. Okay, so there's generals on board these planes. And here we have Brazilian and Chilean Air Force planes going to Israel, I'm assuming to evacuate Brazilians and Chileans. And we have some concerning information coming from the Justice Department here in the U.S. Apparently, North Korea used fake IDs to send IT workers here to the U.S. for them to get jobs in various IT companies. And the money that they earned was sent to North Korea to fund their missile program. And I'm sure they were also spying on our cyber capabilities. So that's pretty concerning. We have the country of Georgia in the Caucasus Mountains taking measures to prepare for the possible use of nuclear weapons in the region, said the head of the State Security Service, Lilawashvili. The Georgian government has developed a special plan in the event of a nuclear war, which spells out steps for each department, Lilawashvili said. Okay, so that's pretty concerning. Okay, Georgia preparing for a nuclear event. And North Korea has threatened a preemptive strike against the United States. Again, they were complaining about the U.S. moving B 52s, F 22s, and F 35s to South Korea recently, and the joint air drills that they're doing right now. China has significantly increased its stockpile of nuclear weapons. Apparently, China now has 100 new nuclear warheads, and they've increased their total number of nuclear warheads to 500, and that's coming from a Pentagon report. And various forecasts are saying that China will have more than 1,000 warheads by 2030. Okay, so here in the U.S., we need to build up our nuclear arsenal a lot more. And we have the president of Latvia threatening to close passage of Russian ships through the Baltic Sea if it's determined that the Baltic Connector pipeline that was destroyed was caused by Russia in some way. And we have this picture here showing a Chinese vessel that was over the Baltic pipeline. Okay, this pipeline connects Finland to Estonia, and this Chinese vessel was over this pipeline right at the time that damage occurred to this pipeline. And so Sweden and the Baltic countries are saying that Russia and China are responsible for these lines and pipelines being damaged. And the Swedish Navy sent a submarine called the Bellows to survey the damaged communications cable, and they confirmed damage by an external force. And there were only 2 ships present at the time at all 3 of those pipelines and communications cables. All right. And they were just the one Chinese vessel and the Russian vessel. Okay. And so there was a Chinese container ship called the New Polar Bear. And then there was also a Russian nuclear powered cargo vessel called the Sevmorput. And according to the German ambassador to Ukraine, Martin Jaeger, the delivery of Taurus missiles to Ukraine is not yet planned. Okay, so that's pretty interesting, unless they're just lying because they want to de escalate tensions, because Russia got mad when Germany announced they were going to send Taurus missiles. They said that they would respond by striking Germany and various targets in NATO. But that's the latest information that I have, guys. I will do another update this afternoon and later on this evening, so stay tuned for those. Other than that, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps: prepare, practice, and persevere.